Hey, thanks for making it to episode 2 of Audiologs. This week, our guests are Bence and Olof of Embark Studios, and we'll be chatting with them about the amazing audio of Arc Raiders. We first explore how they got into the games industry and how that was perhaps a little different back in the early 2000s. We talk a bit about their past working at EA DICE on a bunch of Battlefield games before quickly jumping off to their experience joining Embark Studios. They both shared a lot about the early days at the studios and how starting from scratch gave them the opportunity to build their tools specifically for the kind of games they wanted to make. At this point, we really start to dive into the making of Arc Raiders and Bence and Olaf's philosophy of creating and supporting the simulation, as they call it. Through their emphasis on Foley and field recorded assets, to their highly systemic approach at game audio development, we discuss how creative ideas inspired tech innovation. We also chat about how they collaborated with the rest of the dev team and how they managed to deliver a highly detailed and ambitious AAA multiplayer experience, all the while keeping the sound team small and agile. So that's it. Hope you enjoy our chat with Bence and Olaf. Welcome to Audiologs. Thank you, Bence. Thank you, Olaf, for joining us today to talk about Arc Raiders. How are you guys doing?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I think it's our first real podcast on the subject.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're honored here to be talking to you about this. Then
So it feels great, and a bit nervous, of course.
Same here. So we can share that. We can live it together, I think.
That sounds good.
Either amplify or nullifies the...
Yeah.
Cancels out.
Yeah, it should, right?
And we'll get into all the sort of like Embark Studios. We'll get into Arc Raiders because obviously we have a ton of questions because the sound is amazing, and I think, and we're not just the only ones who think that. I think when you go online and you see people talking about it, people who are not audio people, they seem to always point it out. So I feel like there's plenty to talk about with the game. But before we get into that, if you want, it'd be great to kind of get people to know who you two are a bit. I know you both worked at DICE. That's kind of the extent of, how much I know about you guys. But yeah, the short story, the long story. Yeah, feel free to just talk about your background and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, I can start. Yeah. So my name is Bence Pajor, and at the moment I'm doing the sound stuff on Arc Raiders. And I started out working at DICE. That was my first sound design job. Before that, I used to work as a musician and all kinds of work. So I started there without knowing anything about sound design, really. I had recorded instruments a lot, of course, but I never thought about sound design. So that was a completely new thing for me, and I wanted to work with games because I was fed up. I was doing a lot of like music commercial and stuff like that, and it felt so bad to make the music for the bit when people want to leave the television. So I just thought I need to do something else. And I was into games since I was a kid. So I contacted games companies, and DICE had an ad out. That's an insane coincidence, I think. And they were making Battlefield 2. And that was a PC title. And I just applied for the job, and I took a bunch of interviews, and then I passed them, and then I had to do tests. And it was basically just a sheet of like, I don't know, 30 or 40 sound effects, like big monster, car driving by. It was like stuff like that. Someone reloading a weapon, etc., etc. And I just rigged a mic at home and started doing a bunch of Foley work. I didn't really have a clue how to do it. I just like bought watermelons that I stabbed with a knife. It was I borrowed a car, and I drove it around, and a friend of mine was hanging out the window trying to record the engine, and it was crazy. I was driving around in the middle of the night down in a harbor where I thought there were going to be no police, because I had to do like skidding tires and stuff like that.
Wow.
So
yeah, you really did the long and hard version to get the
because
the
I
test
didn't
done, yeah.
know that there were such a thing as a sound library. So I just recorded everything. And I think I also like stole some sound effects from movies that I queued up with a DVD player.
Right,
And
yeah.
it was really madness. I don't know how I got the job.
It's always so
Really.
fascinating to learn about the industry, you know, prior to what it is now, where like you said, you know, you had no experience of sound design before you even applied to the job, which for jobs now is just like, you know, I mean, that just doesn't happen, right? Like those people who've never even thought about sound design, most likely they're not gonna land a job like
I would never get a job
DICE.
today.
Yeah.
That would be completely impossible.
It feels like every title now is like you have 5 years of AAA experience.
Yeah,
like
and have like a
That's for a
very
junior's position.
what do people? Yeah, exactly. You know, like how do you start?
Yeah, you manage a team of 50 people.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of thing. I mean, now we have all these resources to sort of teach us how to, you know, get those car sounds and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, we have so much technology at our fingertips. Not that the technology wasn't great then, but, you know, things have changed since then. So I find it always fascinating to learn about these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, after that, I also had I didn't know, I had never worked in the like 8-bit era or anything like that prior to. I just came in on a PC title where memory was not really an issue anymore and so on. So I didn't even know about all these tricks to save memory. And I remember being frowned upon by other sound designers by putting like a full range long sound into the game. They were like, "What are you doing? It's a gunshot." Yeah, but it's like several kilobytes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I you could definitely say I was a fresh person. So I just basically I started out recording everything I could, and then we had a sound library which we mixed stuff from, and then it just off it went from there, basically.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, you were at DICE for quite some time. It sounds like you shipped a lot of Battlefields. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for more than 15 years, and I worked on all the Battlefield games from Battlefield 2. Yeah,
Okay.
so there were a lot of Battlefield games.
Yeah, and I feel like that's probably informed how you design sounds for our creators, which is, we'll get into that. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. But maybe we'll pass the mic to Olof to get an idea of where you came from. Yeah.
I sort of had, I don't know, like hobbyist music background, and I also did an a master's in engineering. Was my like education, and when I was going to do my master thesis, I tried to like find something that would be more fun than like regular engineering, I guess. So Dice were they were looking for someone to do their master thesis there. So I got lucky and got that gig, and then from there on, like Stefan, who's our creative director on our creators, he asked me if I could join later after I worked on the master thesis to handle dialogue on Bad Company 1.
Right, cool.
Battlefield Bad Company 1. So because I'm sort of, I don't know, sort of in between like techie skills and some audio skills. So I handled the dialogue on that game and also Bad Company 2, and then moved more into sound design and tech sound design and like all kinds of sound design stuff. Worked on a bunch of Battlefields, Mirror's Edge, Catalyst as well.
Right.
And yeah,
all the good stuff.
Worked there for 12 years or something before I left for Embark.
Cool.
And
yeah,
I mean, hearing that, is that still what you do at Embark, or did you specialize into something more engineering or more designy, or?
It's sort of all over the place in the sort of engineering and sound design, also music on the finals as well.
Okay.
Together
nice.
with me and Carl and other people as well, making the music internally since season 2 or 3 or something like that.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And okay, I mean, it feels like it's a nice diving board to talk a bit more about Embark and sort of the when you guys joined. Can you shed a bit of light on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we had finished. We just finished Battlefield 5. And then some people had left to start Embark. And these were like some of the people that we worked with quite a lot since before. And I think we're, I don't know, both sort of feeling like, should we, if we all should sort of take the leap and try something new after, well, in my case, like 12 years at EA Dice.
Yeah. So that must have been...
it was a bit... Sorry?
Well, it must have been a huge sort of change of pace to be at EA, working on, with lots of people to a smaller studio. But that being said, I actually don't know how big Embark Studios is. Yeah.
I think when I joined, I was the 40th employee, so we were pretty small at that point. And now I think we're like 400 or something, are we?
Yeah, 350 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty big now.
Pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when I joined, I was employee number 30 something. I joined 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we were a really small team. We all fit into one room. I remember we had morning stand-ups, the whole team in one room.
Yeah. Right. In that room, that small room you're in now?
No, it was a different office. It was like an old bank building from the,
15th century. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
It was pretty cool.
Fancy.
Yes. So the ceiling height was like this because everyone was so small in Sweden back then.
Right. The doorways are like crooked, and you can, I don't know, but you couldn't like change anything because it was like a sort of cultural heritage type thing.
Right.
So we didn't have any sound rooms. We just had like a very sort of echoey room, and
it's actually
like headphones.
It's the oldest national bank building in the world.
Really?
Yeah, it's the first national bank building.
You said it was from What year? Like what century?
1641 or something.
Wow. They had banks back then? I didn't know.
Yeah, the first
They had one bank.
They had one bank, yeah. If they would have
national
known
bank, they
back
probably had
then-
other banks.
Yeah, probably other banks, but this was the first national bank.
Right. If they would have known that you're making games in there now, I think they would have not understood what you were talking about. But yeah, cool.
Stand up in the vault. That's sure.
Yeah. So you're not at that bank anymore. You got the studio has moved to a bigger place, it
A
sounds
new
like.
bank. We moved to another bank.
Really? Love banks.
So we have vaults here as well.
Interesting, yeah.
I don't know why we ended up in banks, but yeah.
But it was a pretty crazy, like just moving from like having everything organized, like having, signed libraries and studios and monitors and everything, and like working in the Frostbite engine, which we knew inside out, at least audio wise. And then you're like, new engine,
right?
Don't know like how does anything we didn't know anything about Unreal Engine. We didn't have any sounds, or we didn't know anything. We didn't have anything. It was pretty
we
interesting.
Started from like insane scratch.
Yeah.
We really had nothing. We didn't even have speakers or anything.
Yeah.
So in the end, they bought us these headphones. So then we had headphones, and then we could start work.
And then I think we had one pair of Logitech, $20 speakers.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like a humble beginnings for you. I mean, did you actively enjoy coming from, let's say, EA, where you had resources, you had Frostbite and all the tools that, internal tools of Frostbite and all that kind of stuff? Was it a cool experience to sort of like start fresh? Was there an excitement to that, or?
Yeah, there was also like excitement and also like sort of anxiety as well. Like just realizing, what? You can't even do this? What? How are you ever gonna those realizations were like the limitations that as we perceived them back then. But also just like it was also pretty liberating when it's just the two of us then. It's like, how do we want to deal with this aspect of the audio? Like, how do we want to do whatever, like Foley? Maybe we could try this. Yeah.
How long ago was that? Like, basically, you guys joining Embark?
2019.
So 2019. So basically
April.
6 years ago. Yeah.
Considering how alien it seemed the experience must have been of like going from Frostbite and the EA sort of like umbrella to going grassroots punk rock with like this engine that's like mystery box. It's kind of impressive that the studio has managed to release 2 games in the span of 6 years.
Yeah. Oh, well, we haven't released yet.
Released one.
Okay, sorry. By the time the interview goes live,
right.
Just about releasing the second one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was really great from one aspect. We were around when we designed Frostbite, so we were part of designing the Frostbite audio engine. So we had a long experience from making engines. We also made the Battlefield 2 engine, and so we had done engines before. So starting completely fresh was also a chance to get rid of all the old crap that was hanging around. When we worked in Frostbite, we had like several years of old stuff in the engine, and now we could completely focus on like, okay, now we don't have anything, so let's start with the Foley system. What are the absolute essentials that we want to do? And then we started ideating on how to do that. We have we are 2 people, we're going to make a huge game, and it's just the 2 of us. One is going to do tech and sound design, and I'm too dumb to do coding, so I can do sound design, and I can fiddle around in an engine. So we also had an attitude of we have to make everything systemic, because we're not gonna be able to sit there and play sounds in a world or anything like that. We have to do something that, like, how do you build basically a Battlefield game with 2 people? And that was our starting point. So we were really just focusing on super essential bits that we had learned during these 15-20 years of, like, what makes a good sound experience. And then we started to building only that. And Olof, you had done like scripting a little bit and coding plugins for Reaper, not plugins, but like script stuff. And then you started coding and just got deeper and deeper and deeper in it.
Yeah, it's we have like using an extension that uses AngelScript in Unreal that we're using for like scripting and coding a lot of different gameplay things and systems. So
it's basically like a C#-ish thing that sits on top of Unreal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so you're building custom audio tools, audio-specific tools for
everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like sort of if you call it like gameplay audio integration things, sort of not necessarily like DSP level things, but more like
functional.
Yeah, like when should we play a sound? Where should it play from? Like all those kind of things.
How should we play it back?
Yeah. Like, based on and like trying to sort of get some kind of heuristics from the world around you and systemically determine which sounds should play and those kind of things.
I mean, since we're on the topic of migrating from Frostbite to Unreal, like I'm kind of curious. You know, you're talking about working in Unreal. And you're talking about not having the same kind of tools that you had in Frostbite, because, like myself, I've worked in Frostbite in the past as well. There's a lot of tools that have been built up through the years. I'm just kind of curious, when you went to Unreal, did you stuck with a vanilla Unreal that you sort of added stuff to? I know there's meta sounds that are happening now. Are you using meta sounds? Like, what does your Unreal situation look like?
It's vanilla Unreal. We don't use Wise or anything like that. So we have vanilla Unreal. We're using mostly like sound cues, and we have some, like a few meta sounds where we just need that kind of functionality. I think we're maybe at an engine release version right now where the performance isn't really, like, there's something when they initialize or something that people get angry when they our audio coder sees, like, what is this?
We can't really use meta sounds yet.
We use them sparingly. Then we have some custom DSP things going on, made by our audio programmer. We have some source effects things, some our custom panner plugin instead of the native Unreal panner, and we have some custom, like, early reflection tech and stuff like that as well, and among other things. And also just some, like, multi-channel delay effects that are just more performant than the native ones. And saturations, transient shapers, etc.
We've tried to build a very smoke and mirrory acoustics stuff, basically.
Nice. Yeah.
And then we combine that with asset switching a lot. So
I think also initially when we started, there were like there were no convolution reverbs in Unreal Engine, as far as I know, in vanilla Unreal in 2019. I think so like a lot of improvements showed up along the way, and I think maybe even I don't remember if like the submixes as they function now were around. I'm not sure if they were either. So like I think we sort of some of our like perceived limitations that we perceived in Unreal Engine, they were sort of unlocked along the way,
right,
as well.
Right.
But
I think we could put a pin in this because I feel like we can chat more about this as we get to know Arc Raiders a bit more. Maybe we can just segue to that. I think if you can, it'd be great if you could just describe Arc Raiders for whoever may be listening to this. Maybe they haven't played it themselves. So if you could just describe what kind of game it is.
Yeah, so it is a extraction adventure shooter, supposedly based on the website. No, but it's it's basically you go in, you try to scavenge for materials, and you try to get back out and get back to Esperanza, your sort of home base, where you can upgrade your quarters. You can complete quests for different traders and
build stuff.
Yeah, so build your character, build your sort of home den within the future. Also, maybe I should have mentioned that it's like post-apocalyptic setting, unless that was.
I even think it's a post apocalyptic setting.
Post.
Yeah, where the world has come out of the apocalypse,
right,
and is
right.
recouping. So, so it's not many post-apocalyptic games are a bit hostile and grim in their appearances, but this is not so much.
Yeah, it's meant to
like
feel
a
more
lush
inviting
world and an inviting place to discover. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game is also about wandering around in this world and trying to understand it. And of course, there are robots who roam the surface
and the skies.
For unknown reasons at this point.
Exactly.
But they are there, and the humans need to be careful on the surface. But they need to go there to gather things. So what you are playing a raider. A raider is like a person who dares to go to the surface to get things. So they run a bunch of errands for the community below.
It's interesting juxtaposing adventure and this sort of like there is a narrative behind it that seems to be fairly strong. Pairing this with the extraction genre that's typically more about the gameplay and there is a narrative, but it's I guess it's typically taking the backseat to whatever the experience of playing it sort of resolves.
Yeah, I would say that. It's more about collecting stuff and being in this world and participating in storylines if you wish. Otherwise, you can just roam around on the surface looking for stuff, which is I think that's a great. It's not so super shooter focused.
Right. And that makes sense with, at the time of this recording, that recent video that you've shared, where you're just taking in certain environments. That's kind of integral to the experience of playing this game, is that you're in a place, and, audio does so much storytelling in this game. Like, I feel like I was watching some people play and they were just running through corridors. You don't see anything, right? You just see the corridors they're in, and there's sounds happening. There's the arcs, there's the other players. That's telling a whole story, yet we see nothing. It's all audio cues. So yeah, these environments are they sound amazing. The distance actions really communicate to the player, and so it's a very interesting world. Like, it's very cool.
I mean, based on that, I'm curious to know, like, how did the sort of like more, I don't want to say narrative, but adventure side of the game inform how you approach the use of sound and how the extraction, because it feels like they can be complementary, but they can also go in opposite directions sometimes, given the fact that extraction is typically more about giving all of the information and all this sort of like tiny minutia detail about other players' whereabouts and keeping a mystery at the same time, keeping things obtuse. But adventure is more inviting you to sort of like explore and make something that feels like it's more about the immersion in the world as opposed to the experience of being running around with a gun and being afraid of headshots or something.
I don't know. I mean, if they necessarily have to sort of go different. Like, I think both of us were like immersion junkies. Like, we're so into, I don't know. I think we get really excited when you feel like, oh, now it actually sounds like it does when I walk in my garage, and now it sounds like the thing I heard at the like when environmental sound or any sounds, like when they sort of really click and gel and feel like they're actually real.
There.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
there. Then I don't know. That's super exciting, and I think if you want to get gameplay information as well, and if those things sort of fit into the same sort of set of rules for how sounds behave, then you can sort of also decode more easily how, like, where is that person? Is that person like in there, or like all of those sort of information that you might glean from how the sounds, the nature of them. I don't know if it necessarily has to go.
Yeah, no, you're right. It sounds like
the immersion and the sort of extraction.
Immersion is
thing.
sort of like that, I guess, common ground between some genres, or I think some games. We can go like more specific. And in your case, it's interesting because, yeah, focusing on the immersion sort of benefits both sides of the coin if you want to look at them separately, because they both rely on immersion. So,
I think it's really immersion and gameplay goes completely hand in hand, I think, because we want to make a game where you are completely immersed and you really believe that the things you are seeing and hearing, those things are really happening to you. And we want you to understand the world as you understand the real world. And when you walk the street, you see things, you hear things, you get informed what's going on around you by seeing, but also hearing. I mean, everything that's outside your field of view, you hear them or feel the vibrations or whatever. And that's how we want the game to feel as well. So if someone is reloading a gun around the corner, you would hear that in reality as well, probably. And we want you to just use your normal sensory systems to play this game as well.
That's super interesting, and it's a great marriage of sort of aesthetic and function. It's super cool. I'm kind of curious, like, because of that, did you find that a lot of maybe game designers that you were working with had a lot to say as far as, like, I don't know, even attenuations? Because that's like, we think of attenuations, we think that's like, oh, that's an audio thing. We think about attenuations, but it seems like in a game like this, it serves a very distinct game design function. So
yeah,
did you have a lot of back and forth with other disciplines about this kind of stuff?
For everything. So I mean, if if a designer makes something and they say this is a thing that does this, and then we're looking at the concepts and we're discussing what is this thing, what kind of a thing is this, and then they say, oh well, it's this thing, it's really dangerous, and it does this, and you should really stay away, and you need to hear it when it does this. And then we mostly try to come up with a sound that maybe fits that thought of like, this is a thing that is really loud. Then we make a sound that feels like a loud sound, and therefore you can also hear it over a long distance. And then we think of what could a sound be that you can hear over a long distance that also communicates this or that. Usually there is something like that in reality, and then we think of that and maybe then think like, this really loud, I don't know, alarm sound. How are these really loud alarm sounds in reality? Well, they're usually maybe there has some air propellant or whatever, and then we try to think of that and model something and maybe record something that is like that. And maybe we need to warp it a little bit into something else because it's something else in the game, but we try to stay super grounded. If it's a sound that could be recorded, then we try to record that sound and use that, because as we said earlier, people are so used to understanding the world around them. So if we can populate it with sounds that people understand without an explanation, then we're there. Then you feel immersed because you recognize it from real life, and you maybe have a bunch of other connotations that go along with this sound that you also recognize, and it induces certain emotions, and then we can make use of that. Even if we're making a sci-fi game, doesn't mean we have to synthesize the sounds in it.
If I could ask, based on that, sounds like field recording to get this sense of immersion was a key component of the process of making the sounds for the game. And also sort of like going back to the tech side of things, I was wondering when I was sort of watching gameplay and trying to hear, I was trying to figure out the sort of techniques you use for spatialization and sort of like, how do you make things sound this readable and good at a distance? Did you guys use rely more on sort of real-time processing with your custom tools, or was it more of a, we're going to use the asset that we recorded at that distance or under the ground or above? And like, what was the approach for that sort of worldization of sounds, I guess?
It's a mix of the things you just said.
It's really a mix.
Yeah.
We do a lot of recordings, but then we have to make the edges go away. And there we rely on all the systems that Olof have built.
It's also like sometimes we might, if it's a sound that it's going to take place outside, then we might like post-process it with some exterior reverb, like to the wave assets themselves. So sometimes we do that, and then we have like real-time acoustics, things like early reflections and convolution reverbs that we select depending on like how enclosed you are, based on traces and stuff like that. But then we also, for some sounds, we all have special, like we have indoor recordings of, for instance, guns. Like we add gun tails that are recordings of indoor guns, so they can sound indoor regardless of whether you're indoor or outdoor. It doesn't rely on like listener-centric reverbs. And same thing with like we have footsteps that sound like they're indoor, like those sounds that you really recognize, like how you hear them all the time, and
you hear gunshots.
Not gunshots, but but footsteps. So we try to help those out by with actual recorded assets rather than post processing.
Right.
Okay.
And
we post process everything just to make them really blend together, because you might have a recording that sounds like this, you have another recording that's recorded in maybe a slightly smaller room than the room you are portraying at the very moment, and then we apply maybe some convolution reverb on top of the recording just to stretch it a little bit in that space that you are currently. So it's really a blend of recordings and these acoustic plugins that we have built. And so they mostly serve to make these recorded assets blend with each other in a way that you can't tell that it's just a recorded asset in a certain environment.
Hopefully.
yeah, to get
it sounds
feel,
convincing.
Yeah, feels very worldized. It feels very like authentic and real. I kind of want to just maybe talk a bit about the arcs themselves, because they're a huge part of the sound experience in this game. And like I keep on mentioning, I watch people playing the videos and they're talking about it. The arcs is a huge one. I mean, it's a very as soon as you hear a sound come from it, it's very distinctive, and people pick up on that right away and they feel the danger of it. So I'm just kind of curious, like, it seems like danger in general, the sound of danger is like a really important aspect in this game. Did you have any sort of like philosophies going in, or was it just sort of maybe in your heads but you never communicated it, or did you write down like, hey, this is the sound of danger? Like, what does that mean to you?
At least I think initially we were like, well, why would they make a sound when they are suspicious of something? Or why would they make a sound if they see you? Or like, no, I'm going to go into like, why would they do that? But then we tried it anyway, and it was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Like, even though like it feels strangely gamey at first, but then it I don't know, it just works.
I mean, it sounds dangerous nonetheless. I'm kind of curious, like, when it comes to sort of creating that palette, like what were you thinking when it comes to like, oh, this is a dangerous sound, this is not, like, were there do's and don'ts to achieve that?
No, I don't know. It just, we just started out at one point and started experimenting, and then I used this for most of the.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
It's
One
a
of those,
Core monotone. Yeah, monotone duo. A little
it makes
nice
total
little
sense now that you say that.
It was
synthesizer.
I have another version in my room. Those are like parting gifts when we
left dice.
So we have these two. So we use, but they can, like, with this thing, can be pretty expressive, and like I don't know, is it,
and the little filters, you can turn the knobs and really get a nice
but you can get like a screamy, like sort of expressive things
Right,
with
and they have little speakers on them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Did you record right from the speaker, or there's an
No,
output?
I think I mostly plugged it in.
I think I recorded mic'd it up as well in my room, the other one.
That's next level.
Yeah, it definitely has that, because that gritty sound that comes out of these tiny speakers kind of flutter in a certain way that.
And then we've worked with that, and I've used a plugin that I love called Speakerphone.
Right.
Where you can simulate speakers and rooms and stuff like that. And I mostly did all the robot bleeps and bloops with that little synth, and then some sounds are also made with other things. The really scary ones are usually other stuff as well.
I don't know how Andreas made the Bastion scream, right? I don't know how he made
the
that.
Bastion. That's some metal resonation thing combined with birds, I think.
Oh, cool.
I think it's a bird and some machine thing, and also through speakerphone, I guess.
Was there something that you did to actively make these things feel unique? Like, oh, that's that arc. You hear it and it's like, oh, that it sounds distinctive from another one. Or was it more intuitive?
Yeah, we needed to make them distinct from each other because otherwise you won't recognize it, and they do different things. So you want to tell that now there's a this or that drone coming, and it will do this or that to you.
But I think they're also slightly different approaches, right? For the really big ones are using it's not this one, it's other stuff.
Right. Okay.
Smaller.
Right.
So it's
the bigger the arc,
also
the bigger
sets
the
them
synth.
apart. That it's maybe
the really big alarms are done with the small thing as well.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, we usually also discuss what is this Arc robot? What is it? Like, what's inside it? What kind of noises could this thing make? And then
and I'm
we
sure
try to build a fantasy around this machine and what noises would come out of it. And if it existed for real, how would it propel itself? Like, how would that sound then? So we try to look for things in reality where it would make sense that this thing used. And then the starting point is always some kind of reality-based gadget or thing or whatever. And then we go from there, basically. And sometimes you put the sound into the game and it's just like, oh yeah, but it's just a regular alarm clock. Okay, then maybe I add something to it that makes it not just a regular alarm clock, but something else as well.
Yeah, especially if it's a sound that's part of your daily routine, maybe like an alarm clock, it can be almost too close to reality. You need to shift it a bit.
That's never bad.
It's too immersive at that point.
Too close. You can't ever get too close.
Yeah.
Did you use some actual recordings of real life stuff again? Going field recording for everything that was not sort of like vocalization of the arcs, but like the movement? Because I know there are some that are pretty immense. Some of them are like droney, with like the rotors and stuff. Was that all?
We recorded some drone at some point.
Yeah.
Did that? I remember if we actually kept that.
Yeah.
Is it still there?
Yeah, it's still in use. We recorded a few drones.
But then we have also mixed in helicopter recordings and stuff, which is it's like some of its sound library stuff as well. And same with we have some what's it called, like a lift from the back of a truck type of sound as well.
Yeah.
That
a cargo lift or whatever.
And some
it's a bunch of mechanical noises. We bought a lot of mechanical noises and like scrap heap recordings, and we've done a lot of those ourselves as well, just going around banging things in different ways. Like it's an extreme amount of our own recordings in the game, like the environments, all the Foley, the guns, the explosions, everything you can record, we have recorded.
Okay.
Also to not just to make it unique, but also to imagine you would have a sound library that's recorded with the same microphone. It would be insanely consistent in how it sounds. And so that's also how we do that. We use one of these Sennheiser shotgun mics, and I use this little Sony recorder. And most things are recorded with those two microphones. And then, I mean, you get insane consistency.
Yeah. And it makes sense for this kind of game where we're talking about this kind of worldization where that consistency is key for the immersion.
Yeah.
So I just want to maybe move on to a bit about how you mix this game. It's very dynamic, and prior to this interview, I was playing some other games and shooter games and trying to get a sense of what their mix is like. And it's very clean. There's things gel very well. And there's a lot of dynamics. You hear the distant stuff that pops in, and I'm just kind of curious, like, is there anything new that you've brought to the table for mixing like this? Any kind of new thing you've learned from this?
I think, like, for this, like, the gameplay itself, sort of naturally, like, allows for a dynamic, or it even creates sort of a dynamic mix, because you have these tense moments when you're trying to listen to hear what's going on, and where you might just have like nature sounds and those kind of things before maybe other shit action thing, where before shit hits the fan. So that sort of lends itself to a dynamic mix in itself. Then also, we didn't have like an HDR or anything like that, where you can where you have a moving dynamic range constantly. So that also, it's more like we do some ducking and some stuff like that, but it's more of a statically set dynamic mix, if that makes sense. Like, this is how loud like on a clear day without that much wind, this is sort of how loud the ambience is, and this is where the birds are at, and this is where the foley is at, and this is where guns and explosions are at, and that's
right. So naturally, in a playthrough, the volume can just sort of soar depending on what you're doing.
Exactly.
Depending on the actions. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And the mix is really dynamic.
Yeah.
But I mean, we made it for playing it with headphones. I think most people play with headphones these days. I guess rarely do people have like a proper pair of speakers or something like that. That doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
So it's made for headphones. And since the game allows for long stretches where there's not any violent action going on, then for those moments where there is loud action going on, we can sort of allow it to be really loud. And so we let weapons and explosions be really loud. And that makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. Like, just like the amount of background, this is the level of the background noise, and where that is at when something supposed to be impactful, when that kicks in, like, it makes a huge difference. And also just like how much bass is there in other sounds when you want something to kick in that's supposed to feel impactful in that way. If you sort of spent all your impact bass perception budget on your wind before that thing happens, then
so you really had to conserve like what's taking up that low end.
Yes.
Yeah.
What takes up that low end?
Yeah, it's
explosions.
Yeah, and guns and guns. Like impact from big walking things and stuff like that.
Cool.
It's I mean, since it's mostly the two of us doing the sound design, the others have chipped in as well, but it's mostly the two of us, so it's quite simple to have a really, really strict mixing policy when we make the sounds.
I think also generally we're not super precious about each like individual sound. It's more like, does this sound like fit into does it ruin the sort of big house of cards of immersion that we've tried to build with all the other stuff, and something like just comes in and it's like, oh, that's weird, and it just ruins everything. So we try to be really sort of careful with how things fit into other things, to not break that illusion.
Did you guys use any sort of sound as a baseline, being, okay, this is the first sound we have loudness for, we set it in stone and everything's going to be mixed accordingly in reaction to that? Or
yeah, a little bit like that, actually. I mean, we started out with just like, how does just the air sound when nothing is going on?
Okay,
it's like this loud, and then and compared to that, how loud is a footstep? Okay, then there's a foot. Then that's really just a process where we might just stand in a field and just listen to, like, okay, this is how loud this feels, and now I start walking. How loud does that feel? And when that balance feels natural, then we sort of fit everything in there. So, okay, how loud is a gunshot? When you've done a lot of gun recordings, you know that guns are really loud, and they hurt your ears if you're close enough. And then, like, we try to put your own firing of a gun loud enough so that when you press the mouse, you flinch and you blink, because it's a sudden, scary, loud sound, and your brain just goes, "Whoa."
Right.
And then there's the range somewhere, and then we just try to put everything else in between there so that it feels natural. It's I think mixing is one of our. I mean, I would go out on a limb and say we're actually pretty good at mixing that, to set the dynamics and then to keep that. So no one can make a sound for, I don't know, putting down a cup and it being louder than a gun and having more bass than an explosion.
Right.
Because then we're instantly there and just removing that, cutting it, and then bringing it down.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that happens all the time. We put sounds in and, oh, I just put this new sound in. I really like it, so I crank it up. But then Olof comes 5 minutes later and it's like, there's this loud sound in the game. It feels weird. Can you just, what is that? Oh, it's my new sound. Well, turn it down.
Yeah, sometimes I think in big teams where people have their own domains, they want it to sound really good. There can be a lot of low-end hogging, because they want their sounds to really shine and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there needs to be some kind of discipline and sort of understanding what is doing what.
It's a lot of like fiddling with each other's sounds as well. Like you might open my sound and cut the bass from it and put some more reverb. Like, we're not super.
Right. If something design changes, and actually that low
just
end of
generally
the sound,
aesthetically, not try to be super like, this is my thing and I did this thing and now look at my thing. Okay. It's more like, okay, I'll take your thing and I'll fiddle with it and
all over each other's sounds.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's a good dynamic. You should have that.
That's great. That's the whole, like the entire audio crew has that mentality. We are all sitting in one corridor and we run in and out of each other's rooms and just tell each other what we think. And then everyone needs to do that. So and that way we can keep all of us in check, which is great.
Well, speaking of telling each other what you think and keeping everything in check, we can talk about maybe about the play tests, the tech tests. Yeah, kind of curious, like what was the goal with these tech tests on the audio side of things? What was the was there any kind of information that you were looking to get from the public?
I think it feels like we just wanted to make it sound as good as possible for the test itself. I don't remember. Did we have any sort of more or like
No.
questions?
Yeah, you probably did
No.
a bunch of internal play testing at that point. It was just like, okay, put this out, see how people feel.
Yeah, it's
general.
like a play tests like every like all the time internally.
Yeah.
And have had for 5 or 6 years. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's been a long ride. No, I mean, we just really tried to make the game as immersive as possible and try to have as few bad things in it as possible.
Right.
Yeah, that's our.
Was there any sort of takeaways then out of the playtest? Maybe not something you were looking for, but something that was found along the way?
Yeah, I there was a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
And I was a bit surprised that it was so positive, really. I mean, we thought that it was a great game, but then we are like simulation freaks. So it could have been also, people could have thought it was super boring, and I don't know, but we were really happy. And
Yeah, it seems really overwhelming positive.
Right.
The
Yeah, so
audio
basically,
side.
it basically
generally.
reinforced the impressions you guys had internally. It didn't change
Yeah,
anything. It was just like, okay, we're on the right track.
Yeah, I think maybe
Yeah.
even sort of, maybe if we were unsure if we were on the right path before, we were less so after the tech test, I think.
Right, yeah. I think one thing
yeah, I think actually that I mean, both Olof and I were really keen on simulating reality, and a big feedback point was that people were excited because it sounded so real. So that gave us more energy to go even more realistic. So we've really doubled down on. I think we ask ourselves every day: is the simulation intact? And then it's like, no, there is this sound that sticks out. Okay, let's work on that. It's like the daily mantra is, what's the worst sounding thing in the game? And then we fix that thing.
Right.
And then next day is going to be, it's bound to be a new thing that is the worst thing in the game. And then we fix that thing. So
there will
that's
always
what we
be
do.
a worse thing. I mean,
Yeah,
there's always something
be a
at the
worse
bottom.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You fix those until you're out of time,
Yeah.
then you're done.
Yeah.
If I could circle back to the immersion and the systemic nature, it sounds like there was a lot of effort put into making things feel reactive and alive and as simulation-y as possible. And I was wondering about the ambiences, especially given like the recent video that you guys uploaded. Like, besides the player actions and arc actions, are there any other sorts of, I guess, movement and like changes that are, I don't know, weather, time of day, stuff like that? Is there anything else that sort of exists in that goal of creating immersion and like making it super, I don't know, perceptions?
Sorry, anything else besides like
Besides movement for like players and the arcs, basically, because I noticed in that video that there are some moments where you can hear like arcs moving around. You can see a player and hear him before or her before, stuff like that. But it sounded also, even in the still shots, it sounded like the environments were very, I guess, alive, for lack of a better word. And like, is it just careful minutia between the timing of like, okay, bird sound XYZ, or what is there like something more to it?
There's an entire system behind
Right.
it.
Yeah, here we go.
Of course.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is like parameter driven, like a parameter driven system where we have like for this particular map we have a whole bunch of parameters and conditions going in one end, and it's like, oh, this time of day it's this windy, you're this close to water, blah 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 blah, and then we pick like, okay, so we sort of rank all these things, and then we play what we hope are the most appropriate sounds for those conditions. And we're trying to do that without having to hand place things and manage them manually in the level, and more go by like other types of like what kind of materials are surrounding you, and we can piggyback off some of the things that the artists have used, so like scatter trees. We can sort of piggyback off those scatter actors and figure out where trees are, and we can we have other systems for determining how close you are to like water, and what if you're high above your surrounding terrain and those kind of things. And we try to play
and there is wind and rain that is completely, I mean, it's a dynamic rain and wind system. So the wind is constantly changing, and we have some control over how the wind is changing, but it's constantly changing. And then more or less we've just gone out and recorded these different weather conditions, and we've been thinking of like what makes something windy. How does windy weather sounds? Why does it sound windy? And then it's like, oh yeah, because it makes the trees move and the leaves move, and if you go into a certain space, then there can be the sound of air in that space. So we've done a lot of recordings of that, recording bushes, recording the grass, recording the trees, recording this, recording now it's raining. Oh, okay, it's raining on a tin roof. Record tin roof when it's raining. And okay, I move into a room. How does it sound when I'm in a room and it's raining outside?
on the tin roof.
On the tin roof. Then record that. Then we have all these recordings, and then Olof and me are trying to figure out how could we detect the situation where this recording would be good. And often it comes from us playing the game, and we're being in a spot where there's a certain condition and it just sounds not like we expect. Like, this is not how this sounds. Okay, how would it sound? Well, it would sound something like this. I have this recording of that situation. Okay, can we somehow detect the situation?
Can you describe maybe a use case of the situation? I'm kind of curious about the definition here of a situation.
For instance, it sounds very cool when it's super windy outside, and maybe you're in a room where the windows start rattling, and basically you hear a little bit of the storm outside. And then we have recordings of that, and then it's like, okay, then we want to play this sound somewhere, but we have to get the situation right. So how then? Okay, then we have systems measuring like what kind of room I am in currently. Then we also have the wind strength that is going on at this moment. Then we can, okay, so if the wind is this strong and we're in a room like this, if we can detect that, then maybe we can start fading in this recording of a situation like that. Right. And then we might have other conditions on top of that. It's raining as well. Well, then we have this recording of the rain going on outside when I'm inside, and then we can start fading that in as well. And then we build this system on top of a system and trying to detect more and more things, so we can use the recordings we have for this.
Right. Yeah. That is very cool. That makes me want to play the game, and it's the kind of thing that makes me want to go in every single corner and listen to the sound, because that's very cool.
And we also have some. It's not completely, but most of it is working that way. Then we have some places where one of the sound designers is like, "Oh, I want to place this like thing, this particular location where it should be more like a wind tunnel-y kind of vibe," and then he's placed like some spot sounds there as well. So we have some decoration as well. Just
I actually
full disclosure, it's not all systemic.
Kind of leading into the other question I had, and it first off was, are you ever hand placing stuff? But it sounds like you are sometimes. And I guess the other one that's kind of related is, where are you choosing to break immersion if you are? Is there like specific moments where like it's worth it here?
I think something we like talked about a lot is when like go out and go to lunch and we're like walking and like on this like material, you can't hear the footstep with sneakers. Like you can't hear it. Like this person coming, like can't hear anything. Whereas like in the game, like I guess you hear footsteps a little better than you would in real life on some materials. Than on others, like if someone walks on gravel, you can hear it from really far away. But I guess so we sort of have some.
Yeah, we don't want to ever break immersion, but for gameplay reasons such as this, like footsteps being like this super sensitive topic in games, like you can read on the internet. Yeah, the game sounds shit, but it has good footsteps. It's like, what is good footsteps?
It's the first thing anybody does when they learn how to game audio. It's just like put in footsteps.
Yeah. So that's clearly a place where we break reality, because you can't hear footsteps in reality. You can in quiet conditions and maybe in a forest, if someone steps on a branch or something, then you can hear that. But
right,
or like walk on metal gantry or like gravel, you can hear pretty far. But
but it's mostly like if you have clear line of sight, then maybe you can hear someone walking, and it's very dependent on what the material is. But in our game, you can hear. You can hear someone in an adjacent room.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of the gameplay aspect of it too, right? You want to locate enemies, and
I think it's also some sort of, it's like it's not always necessarily realistic, but we want it to be believable anyway. Like it shouldn't be like, whoa, that's weird. Where does that sound come from? It sounded like it was really close, but it's not. Now I'm all weirded out. Like try to avoid those situations and
right,
I don't know, be believable.
And the problem is also when you start breaking the rules of reality more and more, then the whole mix starts falling apart, because then you hear things. Okay, if I heard that, then I would hear this as well, but I don't, and then it really starts to fall apart. So we're trying there to be really careful with things like that.
I think another example where you can, like some games, or we tried before, like to take speed of sound into consideration, like sounds far away. Yeah, exactly. Where we haven't gone, because that's like if you go down that path, then you end up in a like world of pain where like, well, this, like the engine of that thing also needs to be delayed for it to everything just.
Yeah, there's a kind of immersion and there's expectation, and immersion's great, but if it, counters what a player expects, it might just be weird. Yeah.
Or you have to do it for every single sound source you have to calculate the distance and delay it, and it's just not feasible to do that.
Yeah,
it's just not.
And if you do it for select things, then you can end up in that thing that Bence was describing, like, wait, the explosion happened after I saw it visually, but not this other thing. And they're like, this is weird.
It seems like logic is it's such an important part of the design of your
and game, some sort of a consistency or like internal consistency within the world of the audio for the game.
Yeah. Dan, you had a question there?
I mean, yeah, sure. I had another one regarding basically your past experience was heavily, if not entirely, rooted in first person, except maybe for the vehicle stuff. But I was wondering, were there any sort of like happy accidents or like fun findings or challenges when swapping to third person? Because I'm assuming, again, for immersion's sake, it's a bit different to not have this immersive point of view and just see your avatar in game and all that stuff.
I think it was mostly it was easier to do third person. Because all the first person games we did, we always had to distinguish the first person sound and the third person sound. They had to be different, and first person sounds being kind of internalized of your entire body and bone structure and everything. Like when you walk, you perceive your own footsteps in a way that is not necessarily hearing them but feeling them, and a bunch of things like that, where when you're making a first person game, you have to think of these internalized sounds that are going on in your body and around your body and how you perceive them, whereas in a third person game, basically we can just record it and play it and it will feel right off the bat.
Right. Yeah.
I think also it's sometimes pretty complicated to convey the sense of like that you're performing a certain action in a first person game, like, oh, I vaulted over this thing, but I can only see maybe, or like I climb up onto this thing, but I can't really see my legs, or like all those things where sound should do, or maybe has to do some of the lifting to portray the actions that you can't see.
Right.
Now you can see the actions as well, so it sort of takes a bit of that burden away.
Yeah, piggyback off of animations that are present and
exactly.
Yeah, have a logical sense there. Yeah. I think we only have a couple other questions before we wrap things up. But I think
there was the proximity chat.
Yes,
I know that was something that came up a lot from the feedback. Seeing all the videos came out and just being like, how do the proximity chat in Arc Raider sound this good when typically in other games it sounds like someone yelling in their mic, but in your game it sounds a bit more grounded again and worldized.
Yeah, the idea came from this other game. What was its name?
Get GTFO?
No.
Get the fuck out.
No, it was a super indie game where you took jobs on like a sci-fi, I don't know, oil rig. I don't know. What was the name?
Was it a multiplayer game or?
Yeah, it was a multiplayer game.
It was like a 4-player co-op thing, wasn't it?
Lethal Company or something?
Yeah, Lethal Company.
Exactly.
That's
Lethal
the game.
Company.
Yeah. And I knew it was around the time when we released the finals. And I was constantly updating Steam. Like, which are the most played game at this hour of the day and at this hour of the game. And I kept seeing this game, Lethal Company, and it's like, what is this game? And then I started to Google it and watch gameplay, and then it was this super simplistic indie game, but they had somehow ran their proximity chat out in the they were playing back the audio in the world, and they were applying
like reverb.
The reverbs and that. And when I heard that, it was like, this is genius. This thing makes this game so immersive.
It's really interesting.
It was just fantastic. So, and when we were discussing, we should have proximity chat, and then I just felt like, okay, whatever we do, we have to do it so that the sound of this chat is actually emitted into the world through some kind of sound cue, so that it gets the same treatment as all the other sounds in the game.
It's really complicated. Oh, sorry.
It was complicated.
It was other smarter people than us.
I don't know how Lethal Company did it,
but they at first they like made used some other system so we could get the chat into the game as that we could treat with the same type of attenuation and submix effects and all the others, like we did with all the other stuff. We also wanted to try to play back your proximity voice in the same way, but that doesn't work because of the latency with like Microsoft. Like if you don't have an ACO driver, like just the latency from like getting audio from your microphone into the game and back, like it doesn't feel like, oh, my voice is echoing.
Because we wanted to
it's
let
like 30 milliseconds.
As you speak, we wanted to let yourself hear your own voice in the room you are in.
But so you could hear the reverb.
Like just the wet sand, just the reverb?
Yeah, that was the idea. It's like I hear my own voice in my head, and then but I also hear the reverb, how it echoes off the environment. But I don't know what the round trip latency is. It's like
right.
80.
It was too big, so it just sounded weird. Your own echo interrupted you when you started speaking, so you stopped speaking when you heard your voice, and then it just, okay, we can't do this. Maybe if we get much faster CPUs, then we might do it, but our goal is to do that, but we can't.
Right.
It would be the dream. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Echoing.
It would be very cool. I mean, it sounds like an interesting problem in general with the proximity chat. I wrote it down as a note, but the more we've talked about things and you've discussed the sort of immersion and worldization and, the reality of things, it makes me go like, oh yeah, proximity chat. That must have been so challenging to mix into the game, considering now, despite how fine-tuned everything is and how detailed oriented you two are, the whole team, now you have a mic that some random person across the world has, in their room, and that's what's going to be projected through the world. So, like,
it's definitely the rogue cowboy in the game. Like, we can't control that. Unfortunately, it's going to be it is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
But we felt like, okay, it's worth it. I know we are working on some noise cancellation, because if you're in a noisy environment, like then it's not nice to hear that also echoing out in the
my keyboard clickety
No.
But I watched a super good version of that by some guy who played the technical test, and he found another guy in a room. And then he started speaking with him and asked if he could play a song for him. And then he started playing a guitar at home and singing to it in the game. It was hilarious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, but that's genius. Like, he can play his songs. He can play his own music with his guitar.
Right, yeah. Now you can't do noise suppression too much, or else it might ruin the song.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
So I mean, I think we're getting to the end of it here. This last question, this is the question that we kind of, ask everybody who joins us here. And that is, if you were to like give advice to your past selves early in production, and you can define when that is, pre-production, maybe it's around the time of shipping, sometime in the past. Would you have any advice to give yourself now that you're sort of at that point of release?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Name your files in a good way.
Yeah, that would have been good. That's
important.
Sort of when I was just thinking about that earlier when we talked about like leaving all the mess and like starting from scratch, and like now over the last 6 years I think we managed to build up some new
Yeah.
a bit of a new mess,
some new residue.
Yeah. That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know.
Hey, it doesn't have to be answered. If the answer is it's perfect, we wouldn't change a thing. Then, hey,
I don't know.
Feel like we mostly focused on sort of appropriate things in the different sort of time. Like, I think since we did like pivot the game from a more PvE thing to a PvE along the way, but I think we could still use a lot of the systems that we built earlier anyway. So we haven't done that much throwaway work
right
over the years, as far as I can remember. Then we've learned how to do things better and how to redo them sometimes, but that's,
I mean, even though it was
thing.
a PvE co-op game from the beginning, we always had the goal to make the perfect simulation. So like whatever the game is about, the perfect simulation is the goal. So
nice.
It's fascinating that the goal was and remains the same, which is probably the reason why it's so hard to find an answer to that question of like an advice for your past self, because things haven't changed.
No, not really.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to see like 5-year-old captures of the game, how it looked then. And then it's like, oh yeah, those sounds are still really doing a good job.
Yeah. Some of them survived.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the Foley work was just this giant recording we did really early on, and that it's still based on that.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a testament to maybe the production as a whole. Like there was a clear vision from direction at day one. So hey, maybe we have the thing. Let's just keep on iterating on it. Versus some productions aren't that way, where the goal at day one and the goal at ship are radically different, which happens super often, obviously. So that's cool. That's great to hear. Yeah. But I think that's it. Unless Dan, do you have any other questions?
No, everything's been covered, I think.
Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah. Thanks so much for doing this, and best of luck, because we are recording this before it's officially released. Best of luck with the rest of the production.
That final
Thank you very much.
It's
maybe that could be a nice way of ending things. Anything specific you're working on for the next month? Like
everything?
Yeah, everything.
Okay, so it's a general thing. It's not just okay.
It's it's a lot of just a lot of stuff. Everyone is just cramming in shit now, and it's just like a hailstorm of new things that we have to make sounds for.
Right.
It's like always when during these sort of the last stretch, it always like, oh, maybe if we're really lucky we can make it, but then at the same time things that have been working for a couple of years start breaking as well. Like, I mean, that's always the case. And then you got to
simulation's failing.
Exactly. You got to fix other stuff while fixing the new stuff.
Right. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that, and thanks again.
Thank you.